Are you ready?
Greetings, Weekend Warriors. This is David Marks and my equally significant co-host, Joshua Gaines.
What's up, everybody?
Today we're going to be talking about the 10 Commandments of tabletop RPGing, among other things.
But before we get started with that, please make sure to follow us on Facebook at the Geekend Warriors. You can find us there, and we'd love to hear your feedback. But yeah, is there anything else you want to get into before we get into the 10 Commandments?
Yes. I have the Council of the Dungeon Masters, my page on Facebook. It's an open forum for people to share ideas and whatever you want on DMing or game mastering. Not just D&D, but any other tabletop RPGs that you enjoy on Facebook.
It's a great place to get some resources. All kinds of good minds in there to bounce ideas off of.
Before we get into our main topic, do you have any movies, video games, books, anything that you'd like to touch on?
In books, I've been reading through the Powder Mage series. I honestly can't think of the author, but if you Google Powder Mage trilogy, it'll come right up. It's a very good book series. It's called Flintlock Fantasy, because it's based more in the 1800s. But with magic and flintlock pistols.
Well, I've read several books. I'm not going to go into any I'm currently reading, but I'm going to go touch base on books that I've read in the past. I'm going to start with a Michael Crichton book, Eaters of the Dead. After the movie, they've changed the title to The 13th Warrior, just depending on the version of the book you grab. But honestly, when it comes to movies, that's actually pretty close to the book. It's actually pretty good. I mean, it's got a foreword in it. If you read the foreword, it's loosely based on folklore, based on poetry. He says some of it's based on possibly some true stuff. I mean, he grabbed whatever he could from old writings when he went to translate it and put it all together, but it's not actually really a story he wrote. He kind of just grabbed all this old stuff and just kind of mishmashed it together. It's really just old Nordic stuff, old Arabic writings of this guy. And it could be true, it could not be, but he put a foreword in there kind of explaining it all.
Okay.
It's really interesting. And I think whoever did the movie did a good job of translating it from his book. They didn't really chop it up and butcher it like most people do with movies.
Yeah, that's a big sigh of relief for any movie based on a book.
Which I'm kind of glad about.
Mm-hmm.
Video games. Since this is our first step into TTRPGs, I could have went several ways. I mean, I could have went with Baldur's Gate. I could have went Skyrim. I could have went anywhere, but I think with this one, I'm going to go with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. If anybody's not familiar, that's a spin-off of Borderlands video games. Tiny Tina, she was a character that first appeared in Borderlands 2. Anybody who's familiar with her, she's a fan of tabletop RPGs. They can't say D&D for copyright reasons. They say B&B, Bunkers and Badasses. But in Tiny Tina's Wonderland, she is like the DM equivalent, and the players are basically, they're playing a game, and the player is sucked into like this hyper-realistic D&D game, and you're basically a first-person shooter going through her D&D game. It's really fun. I like it. I've probably played the hell out of that game more than any 40-year-old guy should, but it's really good, and it's not the first. They did another one, a little one-shot, add-on DLC for Borderlands 2 called Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, which is actually really good. And I guess they made enough money off of that to say, okay, let's make a full game out of it. That was actually really good, so I played that for months.
I actually like Borderlands. I'll probably have to check that one out.
Yes. Let's see. Movies. Since, again, this is our first episode, I know it's kind of late, but I'm going to review the D&D movie. The new one, alright. I like the new one better than the 2001-2002 movie. The 2001-2002 movie was garbage. Yes. I worked at a movie theater when that movie came out. And the movie theater's policy with that then was all the employees had to watch the movies that came out when they came out. And the only saving quality for that D&D movie was it had a Wayans brother in it. And I think, okay, no matter how trashy the movie is, let's throw a Wayans brother in it and the movie's going to be good. No, it wasn't. And then I heard that they made 2 sequels after that went direct to video, and they were spiraling worse. I didn't see them, but this one was actually pretty good. And the guy who wrote and directed this, I don't know if you've ever seen that TV series Bones. Yeah. The guy who played the therapist, the psychologist in that, he was the guy who wrote and directed D&D. Okay. The D&D movie. So, I thought that was good. But I've been reading on the internet that, they'd okayed a sequel, but it's going to have a smaller budget. Yeah. Which, I don't agree with, because I thought this one was actually alright.
See, the one from 2001-2002 was such a bad taste in my mouth, I actually ignored the Honor Among Thieves movie.
Well, it had really nothing to do with Dungeons & Dragons, except for the fact it had bad CGI dragons in it. Yeah. And the ending was just so horrible, Everybody just jumped into a portal and was like, okay, what? Yeah. I'm so upset still, it leaves me no words in my mouth. Yeah. But, so, anything else? You ain't seen no good TV shows?
Not recently.
Well, me and my wife, we've been binge-watching The Highlander it ran from about, let's say, 89 to 95, maybe 96. Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen the original Highlander movies.
The original movie, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not on Connor McLeod, it's Duncan McLeod, same clan, different vintage, Mm-hmm. But, I like the TV show better than the movies. I grew up watching TV series. Mm-hmm. I honestly liked the Highlander Endgame better than I liked Highlander, the original movies. And the director's cut for Highlander Endgame was actually, I think, one of the better director's cut movies, because I actually liked the ending better to that than the original ending to Endgame. Things that I liked about Endgame, they should have left it at that, but they made a sequel. The Source was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Okay. I think they made that just to for the sake of making another sequel. Anyways, that's about all I have for views. I think I'll go into the
10 Commandments of Tabletop RPGs.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Now, I'm not going to read each one word for word, but I'll kind of paraphrase them. Thou shalt show up, which is pretty obvious. No attendance, no game. Thou shalt buy in. Number 2, be enthusiastic. Enjoy your character, Yeah,
play something you want to play.
Because, if you're not enjoying your character, then there's no point in playing, Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying your character, another idea is to talk with the DM. There's actually rules in place that you can swap subclasses and, make it tie into the story where it works. So there's a way to make it to where it is something you'll enjoy.
And, I'm flexible like that. If you'd come up to me and tell me, hey, I don't like my character, I'm like, fine, change it, A giant boulder falls off a cliff and splatters you into 1,000 pieces all over the floor. Whatever. Change your character. I'm not if you're not happy with it, I don't want you to be unhappy. And that kind of plays in with this third one, thou shalt play thy character. Yeah. Characters in a role-playing game should be played as a role. And that goes into number 4. As you're playing your role, thou shalt get in trouble. A close tie-in with number 3, get your character in trouble. As much trouble as you can. Trouble, contrary to popular belief, is good. Trouble breeds conflict. Conflict breeds adventure. The harder you work to prevent any kind of trouble occurring, the less fun things are likely to get.
Trouble is what leads to tabletop shenanigans, and we all have our favorite shenanigan stories.
Yeah, my favorite one is the time that well, this happened just a few weeks ago in our game. They decided to split the party. And one player decided to turn into a rat druid. And the druid decided to go and look for some kind of artifact or something. I can't quite remember the details. But got caught in an iron cage, and druids can't come in contact with it. I believe it's iron.
They can come in contact, but they can't use it.
Yeah.
They don't like it.
Well, she got stuck in the iron cage, and then they had to spend a whole session trying to rescue her because she split the party. Thou shalt, number 5. This one cuts me deep because this threw our whole campaign off for almost 6 months. Thou shalt not be an attention hog.
Oh my.
Yes. My nephew decided to join our campaign, and I didn't realize this at the time, but he is a big D&D attention hog. And he decided not only... I apologize ahead of time because I know we'll go into a wild tangent on this. But not only did he decide to become an attention hog, he spent one whole session spending 90 minutes instead of just going to a shop and asking to buy gunpowder, which I would have gladly sold him. He wanted to make it himself. Develop his own saltpeter and get everything he can to make it. You could see the players around him just, putting, finger guns to their heads, wanting to shoot themselves and everything else. But he wanted to start his own slave trade in the village and, everything else. And then I was like, okay, just for the sake of progressing the campaign along, I wanted to just have a portal to get everybody to the monastery or their next spot they wanted to go. It's like, no, let's go from town to town up to get, make money to get there. It was like, fine, I didn't want to do it, so I was like, okay, let's vote. So I let everybody do the democratic thing and let everybody vote. It just barely passed. The vote to take the scenic route up and go town to town. So stupid me rolled a d20. They all wanted to know how many towns there were, so I said rolled a d20 and it was 10. 10 towns. So that's fine, whatever, So I did the 10 towns, wrote them out on a map, planned them all out. And the next day, or the next session when we started to go, he just was like, okay, this game isn't for me. He dropped out, leaving the rest of the party to quest for the next 5.5 months on a derailed campaign. And that just totally threw off my whole plan, my whole game for since April. And here it is, almost October. We're just barely getting back on track where we were supposed to be. Thou shalt not be an attention hog and then leave the party.
I mean, I've played a drunken master monk that made his own mead, but that was something I did on my watch whenever we would go on watch and stuff. Do it at that point. That's your moment to shine. And besides, not to bash you a little bit on your DM style, but Dungeons & Dragons is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. What I say goes. I'm sorry, at my table, if we're going through the portal, we don't have to go through the portal. We can go that way, but...
Yeah, but that blows up on me for being the nicety.
But I get where you're coming from. You don't want to railroad your players, but...
Yeah. Okay, number 6. Thou shalt know your rules. We all know that the GM is the ultimate rules arbiter any given game, but you can't reasonably sit at a table and expect the DM/GM to keep straight every stat on everybody's sheet. It's unreasonable of you to expect that. So as a courtesy, learn how your character works and remember the basic mechanics that apply to them. When the DM asks you what's your armor class, you should know where to find that info on your character sheet. And also know what they mean when they ask. Which also means, don't call your DM at 2 in the morning asking them if they know if they can take the lucky feat at whatever level. Just look it up in your player's guide. I swear, I got players, I don't mind it, but I got players that call me at 2 in the morning asking me these questions. I like to think that I've got a lot of the answers, but I don't, I don't have an eidetic memory.
Yeah.
I literally, when I play, I usually only play barbarians, rangers, rogues. Don't call me asking me questions about clerics, necromancers, or wizards or warlocks.
You'll get there one day. You're playing a bard now, so.
Yes, I am. Thanks to my favorite DM.
Yeah. Yeah, the bad part is in that campaign you're a bard, I said to my girlfriend that my next character was not going to be a spellcaster, and I'm playing a druid.
Yes.
So,
but you gotta remember, I'm a tone-deaf bard, so.
Yeah. And I am standing firm the next time I play a character, it will not be a spellcaster.
Yes.
I will be playing a fighter or something.
Thou shalt respect the DM and GM. I can't say this enough. This is a commandment that does not mean kissing the DM's ass, or thinking that everything they do is pure gold. It's not. We're humans, we're fallible.
No.
What it does mean is that you need to respect the work that the DM has put into the game, and allow them the opportunity to show off their work and be appreciated for it. This means not laughing at them when they read a piece of fluff text that you happen to think is lame. This means not shouting over them when having a rules discussion. This means not holding a grudge against the DM for something that happened to your character or accusing them of cheating just because you don't like how something went. They are the GM because they wanted their friends to have fun. So much they spent the nights and weekends preparing this cool adventure for you to go on. They like you. They are not your enemy. Hear that? They are not your enemy. And if you treat them as such, the game can go sour very quick. And it's true. I mean, you gotta think about that. At least, maybe not for everybody, but for me, for every hour that we play, I put about 2 hours of planning in. I know that's a little excessive. You know, I like to put the little details in. And I know a lot of people just wing it, but I'm a little OCD. But yeah, respect your DMs.
Yes.
Thou shalt go along with it. That's number 8. Thou shalt go along with it. This is both related to number 2 and number 7. What it basically means is that you will allow the game to move on rather than stall, just to satisfy one esoteric desire of your own. Okay, so maybe you want to open up a shop to sell dry goods to minors, but everybody knows that the point of this game is to slay a dragon. So maybe you let a little dry goods idea ride for a bit in favor of everybody else's primary concern about going along with the adventure. This applies with those tedious we all meet at and in scenarios, yes. We all know they're cliche, but can you just play along with the parties can meet and things can move forward. Nothing is worse than having the whole party paralyzed in this first 10% of the adventure because one player just won't stop hitting on the barmaid and have you the whole role played out their whole stupid date.
I think that ties into being an attention hog, too.
This is what I'm talking about. The same thing happened with my nephew. Everybody just wanted to move along with it, and he wanted to open up a slave trade. Thou shalt work as a team, number 9. This is closely related to number 3, 4, and 5. Unless specifically told otherwise, no campaign is about screwing over the other players or torpedoing their plans. Sure, you need to play with your character, but you also need not to be an asshole. Would it be funny if your character, while drunk, stole the Paladin's Holy Avenger sword and tossed it in the lake? Yes, it would. But it also needlessly delays the storyline. Yes, I have a story about this. We have a person in our party. I'm not going to mention his name. Sometimes he has a habit of wanting to fight the other players. He doesn't always show up at our games, but I think you know who I'm talking about.
It's a short list, for sure.
But, yeah, he has a habit of, wanting to pick fights with the players. He used to do it with my nephew all the time at the games.
Oh, okay. Until you mentioned that, because I never played with your nephew, I was like, I could be on that list, honestly.
He'd purposely, he just to see if he could fight him, he'd do it, and then I had to pull him over, and he's like, hey, stop. You can't do that. One of these guys is going to perma-kill you, And then you get perma-killed enough, I'm just going to have to ask you to leave the game, dude, because this isn't Mortal Kombat. This is D&D. If you want to fight somebody, I'll put you in an arena situation in the next town. And the last one is, number 10, thou shalt talk with the GM and fellow players. Ultimately, fun is the goal here. If you aren't having fun, you need to let the DM know. Fun cannot be guaranteed. But it certainly can't happen if you keep it all bottled up inside. Talk with your DM and players and work it out. Be open to having such discussions yourself when confronted with your other players and DM. As mentioned, this is a collaborative effort, so collaborate. Alright, and we have our own...
Yeah, that was the official ones.
Yeah, and we have our own unofficial 10 commandments here. We're going to start with the most important, I think, is hygiene.
Oh my goodness.
I can't express this enough. Nobody wants to taste the air coming off of you.
No.
I mean, that's my number one pet peeve. If you're going to go play with a group of people, take a bath before you go. I mean, I can understand if you just came off of work, or if you've got a medical condition or something, but if you're just lazy or dirty, just take a bath. I go to the local FLGS, and you just be amazed at the stank.
Mm-hmm.
Then you walk into those places. The last FLGS we were playing at before the current one we were at, you could just cut the stench of armpit with a knife when you walked in. It was horrible. Especially, they alternate between Pokemon League and Magic the Gathering tournaments every other weekend.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just straight armpit. You could... The wood paneling would curl. And I remember you saying that wherever it was that you used to play, it was so bad that they'd give a 2 penalty just for hygiene.
Before I got into tabletop RPGs, I played competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! For several years. And we all complained about the stench. And like you said, it's not about maybe the guy just got off of work or maybe he has a medical condition. That's fine. But it's the people that were just lazy and didn't. They instituted a rule that in Yu-Gi-Oh! That if you showed up that way, you instantly took a first round loss. And it's a race to 2 rounds. So you only have to lose once to be out or to lose that round. So it encouraged people to, rules like that shouldn't have to exist, but unfortunately they do in some places.
I mean, if I gotta play with you, I don't want to smell armpit, I don't want to smell urine, and I don't want to smell feces. Just take a bath. Give the other players the common decency of putting on some deodorant, putting on some smell good. Show you got some pride in yourself. I don't want to have to vomit, and I don't. If you smell that bad, I'm going to pull you aside and I'm going to say something, or I'm going to boot you from my game because that's just horrible.
Yeah.
Unless you got a medical condition or something, because it's bad enough when I got to walk into a game store and just about 90% of the people smell like that. And Josh knows I'm not kidding.
No.
And I don't know why. It just blows my mind. I mean, I know these people's parents at least raised them to know something, and I'm not trying to say it to be derogatory or condescending, and I apologize if I come off like that. It's just number one pet peeve of mine. Amazing commandment, just a human commandment. It's not even really a D&D commandment, but it's just number one. Number 2, don't be creepy. And I say that, he laughs, but I say that, in between my very first group and the group I'm playing with now before I met my wife, I had 2, I'd say, 19-year-old girls and a 30-year-old guy and a couple other guys, and this 30-year-old guy kept hitting on these 19-year-old girls, and they were uncomfortable with it. Don't be creepy. I'm sorry, you're not Elvis, okay? You're not God's gift to woman. Don't be creepy, because if you come up to me, or if somebody comes up to me and complains, I'm going to boot you. That stuff makes my skin crawl, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I've got a daughter that's 21. That makes me think of my daughter, and it makes me very upset. So, don't be creepy.
And again, we all know this is a male-driven hobby, for the most part, and that could be a big reason why it is a male-driven hobby, is they don't feel welcome. And if you're a female and you are playing, just know your dungeon master has taken that unwritten social contract of they will step in if they need to. Just talk with them about it. Unless the DM's doing it, and then in that case, find another game.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Stay off your phone. Unless your dice roller or your character sheet's on your phone, stay off of it. I mean, nothing irks me more than me trying to run a game and me looking up from my DM screen and everybody's playing Candy Crush instead of being proactive in the game.
Back before I moved here, in my last group, we had a rule when we came over. Of course, we played at my buddy's apartment, but we would always put phones in a shoebox. And, we went straight pencil and paper and books. That was it. And it stayed that way until the game was over. If your phone rang, 2 times in a row, it was probably an emergency, we'd let you go get your phone. Your phones were not allowed at the table.
Number 4 for me is, no gatekeeping. Try to make your game inclusive. If somebody comes up to my game, never played before, I try to let them in, take a seat, try to explain it to them, try not to, try to make them feel welcome. New people can't see what TTRPG is all about unless you let them in to see. I mean, that's how I got in. I just walked up to a game and was like, hey, what's going on here? Because, I'd never seen one before. It just looked interesting. They were really nice about it. They gave me a sheet of paper that was already a character sheet that was all filled out for me, and they just sat me down and explained how to do it, and I got right in. And now, an idea for that, I would suggest that any DM have a low-level one-shot in your back pocket just for such an occasion. And tell your players, hey, this person wants to try, but we're level 10. You don't want a new player trying to learn a level 10 character right away. Say, hey, can we put our campaign on pause for tonight and we'll just roll out this level 2 one-shot here with these pre-made characters and let's show them what D&D is about before we move forward. Then if they like it, let them build a level 10 or level 9 character and come on in. And my last one that really irritates me, my number 5 is no metagaming. That metagaming, that cuts me like a knife too.
Yeah, if you're not playing a ranger that's your favorite enemy, which let's be honest, not many of us are playing rangers. You probably don't know that trolls are weak against fire unless they're somewhat in your background.
Yeah, so when you go into a room with black puddings, you shouldn't be screaming out, "Hey, don't slash them!" Slashing them will make them split. Yeah, you shouldn't be saying that until your character actually witnesses doing that. Yeah.
Then it's a little different.
Alright. And Josh's number 1 is improv. It's not just a DM skill.
Yeah. A lot of people expect the DM to be able to think on their feet. As a DM, we all know that players get in and just mess things up anyway. But you need to be able to roll with the punches. As a player, we need to be able to do that too. You need to be able to improv just as good. The more everybody at your table is at improv, I believe the more fun you're going to have, because all kinds of things can happen at that point.
Number 2. I think that this one kind of goes into know your role, know your abilities.
Yeah. Yeah, know your role, know your abilities. Like I said, those 2 in the morning phone calls, those are not fun. Play something that you enjoy playing, but also that you know what your character can do. Now, you may not know all the ins and outs. For an example, this last week when we played, and I played my druid and tried to use water to lift a mask off, I didn't know if shape water could actually do that, but it's worth a try and let's see if it works. Know your abilities good enough where you can kind of think on your feet a bit.
Alright, respect your roles.
This goes for DMs and players alike. Don't fudge your roles. As a DM, I really don't like playing with a screen. Everything's in the open. Just because, in the older editions, I actually don't like the term dungeon master. I like the term referee or judge that other games introduced, because that seems more right. I'm a referee. Once initiative's rolled, it's you against them. I'm just here to make sure everyone follows the rules.
Die or lose with grace.
Character death is not always fun, but it does happen. And again, that's your moment to shine. If you're a barbarian, and you guys have made it to level 13 or whatever, you've earned a glorious death. If you die in combat, role play it out. Make it a tearjerker for your party, because it should be. You've been adventuring for years at this point. bleeding and adventuring with these people. You're pretty much family. If your best friend went down in a car wreck, you're going to cry at his funeral. Make them feel it at the table. Those are going to be memorable moments for everybody.
Yes, I agree with that. Because I didn't even mean to. I killed my wife's character, and I think they all made me feel like I murdered my wife's pet or something in cold blood. So yeah.
Earn your acting degree when that happens.
Yes. Respect the players.
Yeah, respect the other players at the table. And that's not saying that you can't play, as you can't have like a party of rogues. But, if you see a player kind of falling to the back, bring them to the forefront for a little bit. Let them have their moment to shine, kind of deal.
Yeah, I think that also ought to go into the respect the DM too.
Yeah.
That brings me to a story of I was DMing a game over at the store in Longview, let's say about 6 months ago. There was an issue with character placement. I got these small mats, so nothing's really to scale. And this man, he threw the biggest tantrum over character placement. I told him, this is the rooms aren't to scale because the mats are so small. He threw the biggest fit. He grabbed his miniatures, he grabbed his laptop, he grabbed everything he had, pouted and stormed out of the store. Mm-hmm. He could have talked to me in private. Yeah. He could have talked to the players. He was upset because it wasn't placed right. And I was like, everybody at the table was shocked. He didn't say a word. He just snatched everything up and stormed out. We were all dumbfounded. We all sat there for like a couple minutes just stunned. I'm
not going to sit here and say that minis and maps are not fun to have at the table, but it's a role-playing game at the end of the day, not a strategy game.
And if anything, it's just a visual tool for theater of the mind.
But I think that's been the episode for the 10 Commandments.
Remember, what does not kill you gives you experience.